Well, I'm joined here in the studio now by the Shadow Justice Secretary, Steve Reid. Hi, Steve. Just on the subject of Bibby Stockholm, as we were talking about it, what do you make of the delay over its arrival, over safety concerns? Do you agree with the Fire Brigades Union? They've said it's reckless.
Over the what, sorry?
The Bibby Stockholm, the boat that we were just hearing about there.
Yes. Well, I mean, the Conservatives are failing on absolutely every single way in dealing with the huge numbers of asylum cases that are coming through at the moment. The hotels are absolutely chocker full of asylum seekers because they're failing to process these cases. The Rwanda scheme just is never going to work. It's just a gimmick to grab the headlines rather than deal with the problem. And now we're seeing the same problem with the barge as well. What they should be doing, and what Labour has been proposing that we do, is you need to set up a cross-border police unit and work with our neighbours across Europe to tackle this problem at source, which is people smugglers. That is who is responsible for the small boats coming across and the vast number of asylum seekers that we're seeing coming into our country. But since a decade ago, when we first started seeing some of these problems arise, there's been a drop by 1/3 in prosecution of people smugglers who lie behind this problem. So if we don't start to tackle that, as well as starting to process more of the cases that are in the country, then we will keep seeing a government failing time and time again to get a grip of the problem.
What about I don't know if you had an opportunity to see that our piece that we were just running about people overstaying their student visas. Of course, this is slightly different to people smuggling, isn't it? It's a different kind of route into the country. The government doesn't appear to be monitoring the numbers. What would Labour do about it?
Well, I mean, just to give you a sense of how far back this problem goes without being tackled, because I Googled it last night. When Theresa May was Home Secretary in 2011, she was talking about starting to tackle fake colleges and student visas that were being abused. That's 12 years ago. They've done absolutely nothing about it ever since then. Now, we do need to make sure that these fake colleges are not allowed to stay open in a way that the Conservative government has allowed them to stay open. But then we need to start processing applications properly and keeping an eye on what is legitimate and what isn't. And just to slightly widen the issue again, there have been 16,000 cases, I believe, where the government has itself identified asylum seekers who are not eligible to stay here and should be deported. Out of that 16,000, they've only removed 21. So the government is not doing what they need to do at any part of the immigration and asylum system, and that is why we're seeing it fail right across the system.
Just wanted to move on to a story that's on the front of the Times today about shoplifters. As Shadow Justice Secretary, what do you make of the prospect of people who shoplift repeatedly being jailed? Is this a good use of the courts and of the prison estate?
Well, we need to be properly stopping and prosecuting and punishing people who shoplift. But this system...
So send them to prison?
In extreme cases, when there is repeat offending, then I think you do need to look at prison. The problem is we've run out of prison places because the government hasn't built the extra places that they say that we need. But I went down and visited a supermarket in my constituency in South London at the request of the people who run it, because they were so worried about shoplifting and how nothing is being done about shoplifters. And what they told me is that the police said they will not come if there is shoplifting happening. And they were advised that if someone comes into that supermarket and steals things, to just let them get away with it so they don't risk provoking a fight. And because of that, there are people coming in and shoplifting to order. So they take orders for what they can sell, they come in there and they take it off the shelves, they wheel it out on trolleys in some cases, and they get away with it scot-free. This is lawlessness, and it's lawlessness that has been licensed by this Conservative government. So, of course, we need to get the police in there to start prosecuting them. If the Conservatives are serious about this, they would pick up Labour's proposals, which is to reduce the cost of procurement across all police forces by tying it up, generating enough savings to put 13,000 extra police back on the streets. Then there's a chance that a police officer might actually come when shoplifting is going on. After that, you have to prosecute and punish the people that are responsible for it. Before they go to prison, you'd probably start off with a lower level sentence, but even those are not being carried out under the Conservatives.
But one of your Labour plans is to bring in people as detectives, people who've never actually been a bobby on the beat. I mean, some people would say actually that you need police officers who are experienced to do the job.
You need both.
Not people being parachuted in.
And I'll point back to what I just said now. If you tie up procurement across all the police forces, you can generate enough savings to recruit 13,000 additional police officers, neighbourhood police officers, the kind of guys that would go to the supermarket in my constituency when there's shoplifting going on, and would then arrest and hopefully prosecute that individual. Now, before a shoplifter goes to prison after multiple offences, you'd try to knock them off the behaviour that they're doing by giving them a lower level sentence, some kind of community payback, a community sentence is what it's called. But since 2014, 16 million hours of unpaid community work that have been handed down by the courts have never been carried out. So if you're a shoplifter and you did actually get prosecuted and got given a community sentence, no one makes you carry it out. That encourages you to go out and commit crime again, and then you get more and more shoplifting. So we're in some kind of doom loop when it comes to crime, because this Conservative government has gone utterly soft on crime and criminality right across the system.
Steve Reid, Shadow Justice Secretary, thank you for coming in.